Ashley, welcome to the show. I feel like this is a pinnacle moment for the podcast because when I think of a Latina in business, like your name, it is the gold standard of like what it means to be a leader in the business world, to be a published author as a Latina. Like you're literally one of the first books that I even saw that like there's a Latina that can write about business, because it's like one of these topics where you walk into the bookstore and it's a bunch of fucking old white guys. And it's like, wait a minute, they can't be the only ones doing this. So first off, thank you for the work that you do to support entrepreneurs, Latinas who are looking to pave their own paths. And welcome to Yo Quiero Dinero. It's an honor to have you here.
I'm so honored to be here. I'm really, really excited to finally dive into the many things that we're probably going to cover today.
Absolutely. All right. So let's start off with an intro. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes, of course. So I'm Ashley. It's very nice to be here. And I'm a multicultural business strategist, best known for my book, Jefa in Training, which is the first Spanglish business launching toolkit and workbook for aspiring and current Latina entrepreneurs. And I come from a really, really weird and diverse professional background. I spent 10 years in the music industry and also in business development and communications. So a lot of my skills that I put into and that I write about in the book actually come from there. Right out of college, I started an international nonprofit for women songwriters that grew very, very quickly. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, as one does in their first venture. And the book actually really stemmed from a lot of those mistakes, which were around really having a solid foundation for your business, and also the work that I started doing with entrepreneurs when I started coaching initially, which was like 2019, 2020, like right in the beginning of the pandemic.
So let's go back in time. Was your vision always to be an entrepreneur? Or what was the original goal?
The original goal was to become a famous songwriter and rock star. That was the original goal.
You know what? I love dreaming big. Okay. So I love that.
I have to say, I don't know if I've completely let go of that dream entirely. The rock star part, I don't know if I need to do all that. Like I'm already a touring author. Like, I don't know if I need to be a touring musician. Honestly, authors get paid better. I'm not gonna lie.
That grind looks for real. I look at Bad Bunny's like concert tour dates and I'm like, honey, I cannot be out of my home for 18 months. What is this craziness?
I'm like, I don't need to do that. But the music industry really, really burnt me out. When I was leading my nonprofit, I was also performing in bands and singer-songwriter solo. And it just really, really burnt me out. And so I've been kind of on like a musician hiatus since 2017. But I feel like I'm starting to feel the urges again. Or like I go to shows and I'm like, damn, like I really miss being on stage. But I think the moment that led me to entrepreneurship is that I think it came to me. Entrepreneurship came to me, but I also knew that I could never see myself in a traditional, like going to an office 9 to 5. Like I don't think I ever saw myself in that route. I got like a small taste of it when I was interning, because I started interning at record labels in PR. And I just saw like they were working, because PR also in the music industry is just insane. Like they're wildly underpaid and they're working from the moment they get into the office at 9 o'clock to 5. And then they're doing events from 5 to the middle of the night. And it's like every single day of the week. And I got a taste of that. And I was like, no, I'm good. So when I graduated college, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I guess I can work in hospitality. And I was in New York at the time. So, everyone who's in music or acting or whatever is working as a bartender, waitress, and going to auditions and doing shows on the side.
What was your major too?
So I actually ended up majoring in media communications.
Okay. But your intention was to end up in the music industry.
Yes. So my thought process was, because my parents, they were very supportive of the music dream. Actually, they've been very, very supportive of all of my dreams as long as I graduated college. There was at one point during junior year, I had one more year to go. And I told my parents, I don't want to do this anymore, because I will be honest, I was not a good student. I would cut class to go practice for my gigs in the practice rooms, because that's just where I was at in college and I felt like I had better things to do. Still managed to graduate with a decent GPA, which is amazing. Imagine if I had actually applied myself, the things I could have done. But whatever, I still turned out fine. I knew I was a strong writer. And at the end of the day, I knew whatever I ended up doing, I would be writing something. And there was a moment in my first year of college where I was working at a really awesome music venue in New York called the Iridium. And I met a lot of really awesome jazz legends and music industry professionals. And I became really friendly with an editor at Rolling Stone. And one day I got the courage to be like, hey, I'm a musician, but I'm also a writer. I would love to be a music journalist one day. Do you think I can intern for you? I don't need to get paid. I just want the experience. And he said, don't bother. Don't waste your time, sweetie. Rolling Stone only hires old white guy writers. And I know he wasn't trying to crush my dreams, but he did in that moment. And that's when I ended up making the switch to thinking. He also told me that journalism was a dying industry, and that was in 2011. And so in my head, I was like, well, I didn't know any better. If journalism's dying and I can't work for Rolling Stone, I kept seeing internships for PR for Atlantic Records, MTV, whatever. So I applied to those and I got one. And that's kind of when I started to see, well, I can write and then also be in PR and kind of learn both sides of the table. And if I want to be a famous musician, I should probably learn how to make myself famous, right? That makes a lot of sense. And I thought it was that easy. I'd graduate school and then I'd make myself famous and, and that would be it. And so that's kind of how things started for me. I got really, really into PR, but didn't like the PR lifestyle, the full day at the office and doing so many events. There was no work-life balance. And even at 19 years old, I was very conscious that that's something that I really wanted. As ambitious and career-driven as I've always been, I did still want to have that. And, fast forward to me graduating school, I ended up moving across the country to Portland, Oregon to find myself after graduation. And I started working in restaurants here also in Portland. And then at some point, I just started feeling like a robot. I was like, man, I have all these skills that I want to use and I want to help people and I write and I want to do something outside of music. And I ended up getting a job as a community manager assistant for Yelp. And that was kind of my first big girl job outside of college. And it was cool because it was remote. It was not full-time, but also not part-time. And I learned a lot about partnerships and sponsorships and events. And eventually that gave me the confidence to start what became my nonprofit, which was called Women Crush Music. And that started completely by accident. When I say by accident, I started hosting these showcases for women songwriters at a little local venue by my house because I wanted to make friends because I didn't know anyone in Portland, especially no one in the music industry. And the music industry is scary, right? Male dominated, you come up a bunch of creeps, people who don't want to pay you. So I was it'd be cool if I had a little community of women songwriters to share safe resources with and play music with and collaborate with. And it's so funny because in the music industry, collaboration is so natural. And when I moved out of the music industry, hearing people be like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to collaborate because what if they take my ideas and this and that? For me, it was just oh, people think that way. For me, it came so naturally because that's what I was used to. So in a lot of ways, the music industry prepared me for what I'm doing now. But this showcase that I started hosting within 3 months started packing the venue. Music industry professionals started showing up. The artists that were playing started getting booked for bigger things, getting media attention. And I was light bulb moment. What can I do to grow this? Or for me, it was what can I do to help these artists? Because most of the artists that I was working with didn't have the music industry experience, the business side of it that I had. They didn't know anything about marketing or PR. They didn't know how to get booked for gigs. They didn't know how to pitch themselves. So I said, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm going to keep hosting these events and also offer these services to these girls so that they can start making money and start booking more shows and start connecting with people that can help them. And I started reaching out to a lot of the music Facebook groups that I was in, because that was the time for Facebook groups back in the day. And instead of getting advice, I started getting a lot of requests like, we need this in our city. We need this in our city. We need this in our city. So another light bulb moment. Well, I guess I'll start hosting these in other cities too. So me, one person, I was running monthly events virtually, like from afar, and finding local people to like actually be there to facilitate the events in like 5 or 6 different cities at some point, before someone in New York said, "It seems like you need help. Can I help you?" And I was like, yeah. And then basically she was my first volunteer. And that was kind of when I started getting some coaching around like, am I a business? Am I starting a nonprofit? What is actually happening here? Because people were asking me all of these questions, and I was straight out of school. I didn't know. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that it felt good and it was cool and people liked it. I had no vision beyond that. And that thing turned into us hosting monthly events in 16 international cities in the first year, with a community of like maybe 10,000 songwriters in like the first couple of years. It was pretty insane. Obviously, I made many, many, many mistakes. The number one, well, not number one, but like up there in my top 3 was never paying myself a dime.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I'm like, are we making money with this?
Oh, no. No. And when you're 25 years old, I mean, when I was 25 years old, other people are probably different, but when I was 25 years old, I was not thinking about that. I was just thinking, this is getting me attention. I'm meeting a lot of people. And I guess I wasn't really used to the idea of having money at that point in my life. So I was just like, I'm just going to grow this and something will come out of it. But at the same time, you know, it got to the point where I was really doing this like full time, plus also having to make money because I'm no trust fund baby. But that's also like kind of what prompted me to do like freelancing and part-time jobs for startups and doing like consulting here and there and coaching, because I didn't have the time for another full-time job. So that also, the skills that I was like developing in my part-time jobs with startups and the consulting that I was doing was helping the organization. And the skills that I was picking up from running this organization was also helping those clients. So they were feeding each other for a long time, for a really, really long time. I'm grateful for that, but I'll never forget the turning point for me was it was 2019. We had just hosted our first South by Southwest showcase. So unofficial showcase, but like a huge deal for us because we had like 1,000 people there. It was a whole day event. We had sponsors. We had artists from all over the country come to perform. Like it was huge. It was the biggest thing that we had done. And after the event, like the team was celebrating. I was there and I was talking to another music industry founder who also like ran like a networking group. And he was like, how do you feel? This was amazing. And I just started sobbing. Like I started sobbing uncontrollably because he was like, what's next for you guys? And I was like, I have no freaking clue. That was the moment that I realized that I had grown the organization past the point of what I knew, like how to scale from. Like it just could not scale anymore physically because I had not set a proper foundation. Like I didn't have the skills at that time. And at that point in time, I also didn't really love asking for help. I've gotten a little bit better about that now. And that was the moment where I was like, man, like I think I need to start over. So that was spring of 2019. So from spring of 2019 till the end of 2019, I started rebuilding the foundation of the organization, just kind of like doing a lot of consulting sessions with anyone I could approach about like, hey, how do I grow this? I had a whole plan. I had sponsorships lined up for 2020 to fund like all of our programming and to like start paying some of the team, myself included. Not a lot, but you know, it was a start. And then COVID comes and we lose everything overnight. like what seemed like overnight. It was a crazy shift, but now I look back on that and like everything happened for a reason, because around that same time I had just moved to Florida and I connected with Mari from the Mujerista, and she had hired me to help her build the Mujerista online community, which is actually how I originally met you, like way back when. So I was doing that and working through this like pivot of the organization. Should I try to keep it going? We don't know when live music is coming back. What's going to happen now? And also thinking about all the mistakes that I had made, and also hearing about all these experiences that these Latina entrepreneurs were having and the challenges that they were having. And I thought it would be so cool if there was a resource out there for people like us. And then I was like, wait, why can't I be the one to write that? And I had already had a book proposal concept for a book like this ready, and I got a lot of rejections for it in 2019, and then life happened and COVID happened and all these things happened, so I kind of put it on the back burner. And the end of 2020, I accidentally met an editor from my publisher because I was working on a giveaway for the Mujerista, and we connected, and I started telling her my story and all of my ideas, and she was like, "Are you writing a book?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am actually." And she goes, "You should send me your proposal, because I think whatever it is that you're working on, like, I think it's worth looking at." And I was like, oh crap, I hadn't looked at my proposal in like a year. I spent all night like reworking it, filling out the template that she had sent. And I got very lucky because that editor was Latina. And so she really understood the need for the book. And at that point in time, probably like 75% of the team was either Latina or a woman of color. And so they're the ones that pushed for my book for like 4 months for me to get a deal. And then I finally signed the deal in January of 2021. And I asked myself, do I want to keep pushing myself to make this organization work? Or do I want to just dissolve it and call it a day and fully take a bet on myself and this writing career and this full-time consultancy that I've been like dragging my feet on for the last few years, trying to make music stuff happen? And so I chose that option. And here we are.
Wow. Okay. So that is quite the whirlwind kind of story to end up where you are now. So let's go back in time. Knowing what you know now, right? You know the power of like community building and storytelling, because that's obviously been such a big part of your story and how you've gone to where you are today. What do you think it is about that aspect that like makes people who are aspiring entrepreneurs uncomfortable? Because I find that when I tell people to start writing their founder story, like getting to the why, like why they want to do this thing, that's when all the imposter syndrome shit starts coming up. It's like, who the fuck am I to be like an expert or a thought leader or blah, blah, blah. So what would you say to like Ashley from the beginning that may have had doubts about owning that identity before it may be something that you even believe?
I think that I saw the lack of representation in the business resources out there pretty early on, like when I had that whole like nonprofit founder crisis in 2019. And I started grabbing every book under the sun and started reading them like, oh, this is by an old white guy, pass. This is by an old white guy, and like started like throwing books left and right because I was reading them and I'm like, well, this guy just told me his dad gave him $1 million. So that's a no. Like my dad makes $18.50 an hour. That's not going to happen. So I think I saw that very early on, and still I was like, well, who am I? Like, it's not like I'm already a millionaire or anything, but I do have all of these experiences and have made a lot of mistakes that I think I can share with people, and people will be able to relate to me, which I think is the most powerful thing. Like when people can say, oh, well, Ashley did this thing and she grew this movement and this is how she did it, or this is what she thinks works. Like maybe I can also do it, and just coming at things in like a very approachable manner. Like that's what I would have found helpful back in the day. And so when I thought about what I needed, I just thought well, maybe other people need it too. And that's, you know, that's usually the case, right? They say, like, if you find a need for something, like, other people probably see it too. And I actually think I end the intro of my book, or the first edition of the book, with that sentence, because I really truly believe that, like, if you're feeling like there's something missing, like, you're probably not the only one.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant point, you know, and I think one of the biggest challenges that I have encountered with people who want to start businesses is this idea that like there's already too many people doing this, right? The market saturation. And that's one of the main reasons that people kind of talk themselves out of whatever it is that they're doing. And so I think when you're very clear on where that need is and who you're helping, it's much more clear how you can stand out, right? Versus just saying, oh, I want to have a music career. Okay, but like what kind of music? What platforms are you going to use? What's going to be your aesthetic as an artist? You know, are you going to be like Lady Gaga? Are you going to be like Beyonce? Like there's so many different ways that we can show up in these spaces, but you have to get like almost hyper focused on who you're talking to versus like trying to serve everybody, right?
And I think that's why I always say my experience in music really prepared me for entrepreneurship, because I don't think I saw it at the time. But what I say to every creative that I meet now is, you are starting a business. Like the moment you decide, oh, I want to release music, or I want to do photography, or, you know, I want to write a book, like that's your business. That's your baby. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's not like the 1950s or the 1970s where you can go and sing in the subway and you'll get signed. My hope is that that still happens in some part of the industry, but it's on TikTok now. But still, like, people are looking to give deals with people that already have a platform, because the industry believes, and you know, it's not just music, like publishing is the same way.
Oh, absolutely. You need a following, y'all, at this point if you want to write a book.
Yeah. And so they look at a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, they feel like if you already have a platform, they won't have to do as much of the legwork for marketing, which I think you probably agree with me. That's not always true. There are plenty of celebrities who have written books that have completely tanked. So I don't believe that that's true at all, but like that's what the industry wants right now. And I knew that, you know, I knew that when I was performing music. And actually, I didn't even want to be an artist. I just wanted to write music for people. But I can sing. I'm not gonna lie, I can sing my face off. So when somebody
we
said,
need to hear it. I'm like, after the mic is off, we're gonna have like a MTV studio solo session.
I'll give you this. I'll send you a YouTube link of my last live performance, and then if you want to include it in the segment somehow, feel free to do that.
I love that. That I'm obsessed. Okay.
But, you know, someone told me, if you want your songs to be heard, you need to get a singer to sing them. And I was like, well, I can sing. And they were like, okay, so you should just be performing your own songs. And then, you know, if they're hits, then people will take them from you. And I was like, oh, well, that sounds easy enough. It's not that simple, guys. But that's the whole reason I started performing, because I just wanted people to hear my songs and then like pray that like I would get hired to write music for a movie, or, you know, for not Beyonce, but I don't know, like JoJo. I don't know who I was dreaming about. People would always compare me to Adele. Like, I'd write a song with Adele. That sounds cool. But like, you do not get booked for a show if you don't already have that brand identity, if you're not already building your community, if you're not already showing up. And so entrepreneurship is the same way, right? Clients are not going to come find you if you're hiding in your home office. Sometimes it happens, but like, you do need to do your part too.
You're going to have to probably post on social media. You're going to have to go to networking events. You're going to have to slide into DMs. That's just kind of the, you know, little bit of delusion that you have to have, especially in the beginning, of just like inserting yourself into spaces where people are doing the thing that you want to do, or that know people who are doing the thing that you want to do. It sounds like a lot of your success has been kind of your unrelenting willingness to just show up in spaces and like ask people the questions that need to be asked. Where do you think that confidence comes from? And how do you think people who may tell themselves like, I'm not good at networking, I don't know what to do? What advice do you have for that?
Now it's definitely confidence because I have years of experience. But in the beginning, I don't think it was confidence. I think it was more of like, I don't have another option. Like, I don't have a plan B. I think that happens to a lot of us that end up starting businesses. Like, especially so many people are getting laid off right now. It's like, well, what do I do if I can't find another job? The job market's tough. Like, start a business. Okay, so how do I do that? I have to get out there. Well, all right, because if I don't get out there, people are not going to find me. So for me, it was just thinking, this is the only way that I may have a shot at changing my life. You know, it's not like I could call up mommy and daddy on the phone and be like, hey guys, you know, I don't want to get a job and I'm out of school, so can you just give me some allowance? I've been working since I was 12 years old, you know? So it was just, you do that, or I told myself, like, I have to at least give myself a shot. And I do think that that is the one thing about me that I've always had is like, I knew that I deserved a shot at doing something else and having a different life and breaking the cycle, if you will. And I knew that I deserved that shot. Even now, you know, that I've had a certain level of success, I like think about like what my next steps are. And all of my ideas sound insane and super out of the box, but I'm like, I deserve the shot. So what's the worst that could happen? I think I'll just take it.
I mean, it's the crazy ass ideas that can change your life. I say this all the time. I'm like, who knew that starting a fucking show in the closet of my bedroom was going to lead to me like quitting my job and like writing a book and doing all this wild shit, like getting paid to talk to people. You know, it's like you never know what that crazy idea can turn into. And I think it's your duty to like see them through as much as you can because you have no idea what they can turn into. I want to know from you, because obviously you have mentored hundreds of entrepreneurs in all different industries. What is like the most common mistake that you see people making, maybe in like the first year when it comes to processes and systems, right? Because I think it's very easy for folks who are like in the creative spirit, like they have all these grand fucking plans and like everything sounds so cool. But then like to execute these things consistently and then like scale, that's when I'm so grateful for my engineering brain because like it has served me so well in entrepreneurship, like being able to standardize things and like create procedures and processes. This is not something that's inherent to a lot of folks who are like quote unquote left brained, right? So what do you see as like some mistakes that people are making from that perspective?
Left brain person here, presente. Okay, for all of my fellow left brained people, it is possible to learn to be a right brained person. I promise you can learn. You can learn because I did. It took a while, but you can definitely learn these things. And I think the biggest mistake that I see people make is wanting to do 8 million different things at once. And I will usually tell my clients, I'm never going to discourage you from trying something because at the end of the day, like in the beginning, especially, we're kind of just like throwing spaghetti at the wall intentionally. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the times when they have all these different ideas and they want to launch this and they want to do this, they don't understand what it costs them. And I don't always mean financially, but like time wise and like how many hours they're going to spend building the thing and managing the thing and launching the thing. Like all of that takes time, not just money. And time is money for an entrepreneur a lot of the time, especially in the beginning, you know, until you can grow like those passive things. And even that requires time up front, right? So I do think that just like being aware of how much time and money something is going to cost you and being realistic about it is really, really, really important. And that's one of the things that I work through with my clients. Like most of my clients now, they already have businesses and they're working on just like diversifying their revenue streams. And that's something that we spend a lot of time talking about. It's like, and also a lot of business is personal, especially when you're a solopreneur, right? So if you know that you're about to have a baby next year, like maybe you shouldn't go and launch like 8 million things that you're not going to be able to manage unless you have the money to outsource for people to run these things for you. And so it's one of those things where I think we get very excited as creatives at the potential and the vision that we sometimes don't know what it's actually going to cost us to get there. And if there's anything that I learned from my nonprofit experience is that slow and steady wins the race. Because at the end of the day, I think what I grew was amazing. And I still get people, it's been 5 years since we stopped hosting shows. And I go out to music shows now here in the city and people still come up to me and they're like, Woman Crush Music changed my life. Like, I got this, and this from it. When is it coming back? Like, I know we made a huge impact. So I can live peacefully without like letting it go. You know, it was what it was, but we grew way too fast. And that's not always good when you don't know how to manage that growth and how to keep it going. So now, like, even with my membership community that I launched, and now I've been training a lot of my clients to like start their own membership communities. And I asked them, like, what's your goal? And they're like, well, I want 300 people to join in 6 months. And I'm like, hold the phone. And I'm like, espera. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. I don't think that's a good idea. Well, I will never say I don't think that's a good idea, but I'm just kind of like, well, let's talk this through. Like, how are you going to manage 300 people in your community? Because that's a lot. Once you get to like 30 to 40, you're probably going to want somebody to help you, depending on what kind of programming you got in there. So it's a lot to think about. And I think sometimes we just need to brain dump all of our ideas, and it's nice to have a thought partner, to have somebody like be like, okay, well, like, let's talk about what's realistic, what can make you money fastest, because I also tell them that, right? Like, we could have one like immediate money maker and work on that so that we feel like financially we're not worried about paying our bills, right? Because nobody wants to be worried about paying their bills. And then once that revenue stream is like more or less okay, then we can think about like investing more money into the business and launching this product or this other service or whatever, but keeping all of these things in mind.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because oftentimes people fall victim to like I want overnight success, like we apparently see on social media, you know, and it's like a lot of those quote unquote overnight success stories are years in the making, and you just don't have the context to understand like what are those resources, the time, what are the advantages and the privileges that like people had to create the shit that you see now. It's important to have that level of understanding and context, because it can make you feel like you're not making quote unquote enough progress, or things aren't happening fast enough, because you just don't know like what has been sacrificed behind the scenes to make that happen. So I love the idea of like maintaining kind of a realistic perspective of how long it's going to take you to do these things. And also, what is your particular situation? You know, if you're modeling yourself after somebody who is a single Pringle, but you're like a mom of two, it's not the same fucking life. You know, you might be trying to build the same business, but it's not the same 24 hours. It's not the same life. It's not the same resources. It's not the same mental capacity. You know, there's a lot of things you got to take into account. I'm fucking tired, y'all. I'm letting you know right now, as a new mother, I'm so glad I started my business before, because if I was launching this shit today, oh, honey, I'd be so stressed out. I would be so exhausted. So yeah, it's real. I think you need that level of comparison to just keep shit real with yourself.
Yeah. And also give yourself grace too. Like, things happen. When I was running my nonprofit, I became a super workaholic, like to the point where, so I have endometriosis and PCOS, and I had like a series of like ruptured ovarian cysts in like 2017, 2018. And I was so crazy that I was literally in the hospital bed on morphine answering emails, girl.
Wow.
Worst decision of my life. I made some really, really bad decisions actually with my organization from those emails that I like the week after. I was just like, what the hell did I do? I shouldn't have been doing that. Why didn't somebody stop me?
You were delirious on morphines, for one.
Right. I'm like, what the hell? That was the moment that because I was the queen of burnout at that point at 26 years old. Like, that's so sad.
But that's like so typical of like, you know, first gen Latinas who are just out here trying to like make up for everybody's lost time. You know, like we're the ones that got to like save the family lineage and shit. So of course no fucking pressure whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, no other choice. You know, you just gotta do it. No one else is going to do it, so I'm going to do it. But like, that was really that moment I'll never forget in my life, because that was when I was like, something's got to change. Like, I have to change the way that I work, change my relationship to work, change my relationship to money. Like, all of that happened in that process, and like change my definition of success. And I, now that it's been a few years, when I was 26, I'm 33 now. Like, a lot has happened since then. A lot of life and a lot of business has happened since then. And I think I've been thinking a lot about like redefining success and like what that means to us personally. And sometimes I think that means like waking up and checking things off of the list. And sometimes it means like, yeah, like envisioning like, you know, your dream life and working on that. But I think it's different, and it can be different for you every day, and that's okay.
Yeah. And even in business too, right? I think sometimes we get caught up in like, we always have to make more revenue last year than we did, because that's just what you're supposed to do. But I like to entertain the idea, like, when is enough enough? You know, like, do you need to scale to 10 million to like live the life that you want? Or like, you know, is like $500,000 a year going to let you do all the fucking things you want to do without necessarily having to hire a team of 35 people? I think for many of us, there's this idea that like entrepreneurship means always scaling, always growing, always pursuing like the next. And for me, I've had to redefine my relationship with success by really defining for myself, and not like what anybody else thinks, but like what I think. What is enough? Like, ask yourself that question.
Can I tell you about my memoir concept now?
Yes.
I've had this memoir concept in my head for a while. Any agents who are listening, this is for you. Last year, I went through infertility for 2 years, maybe a little bit more, because of my endo and PCOS. And so I had this idea, like, I really want to share my journey of like what going through infertility looks like for a first gen Latina, also a successful entrepreneur who's wearing many hats. So I've had this title concept of like, can we have it all? Right. But then I really started thinking about, what does having it all even mean for us, right? And where does that idea actually come from? Like, where do our first definitions of success or having it all come from? Or like being a woman and doing all of the things. And for me, I know that that comes from my mom, which it might happen for a lot of us, where she came to this country because she married my dad, and she didn't know anybody. She didn't really speak English. She had a really, really successful career in Mexico as an accountant, hosting huge events. She made good money, and she left all of that for love. And she came to the States, to New York, after living in Morelia, Michoacan, which was very, very small at that time, and just huge culture shock. Everything was different. And then she started having kids and didn't feel like she could go back to work because childcare is expensive and it wasn't worth it. My parents didn't really have a lot of money. And it had been maybe like 10 years where she was just raising us. And then she ended up working at a restaurant doing coat check, which was a seasonal job for her. And I just thought to myself, is that it? Like, you get married, you have kids, and you give up everything. Like, for a lot of my life, I was scared to get married and have a family, because in my head, I was like, people like me don't get to have all of that. Like, we have to pick one, because that's what I saw. And it took me starting to work in startup world and with clients to see other mom entrepreneurs and mom career women who, obviously it's hard as shit, right? But like, you know, it is possible, and there are people who are doing it. And it took for me to see that for a long time, for me to be like, oh, well, maybe it could be possible for me too. So now the concept has shifted to having it all redefined, because this whole experience and reflecting on all of this has made me realize what I was just sharing about redefining success, right? And how a lot of the times, if we feel like success looks like one thing, it probably comes from somewhere, from our family, from our traumas, from society or cultural things telling us. And so we really have to figure out what it means for us, even if that changes day by day. And so I will share something that I have not actually shared online. Breaking news. I'm pregnant.
Oh my God! You heard it here first, you guys. This is like fucking exclusive news. Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. I was thinking about it like the whole week. I was just like, oh, I'm going to be on Janessi's podcast. Like, should I tell her? Should I not tell her?
This is amazing, y'all. We are out here breaking news in the Latino entrepreneurship world.
So, obviously, like in finding out that you're pregnant the day after the Trump gets inaugurated into office is such a vibe, you guys. Like, I once the news is out there, I'll probably write a whole op-ed about it, because the mindset shift, like a lot of my clients and I was feeling very hopeless and grieving over the state of everything. And the moment I saw that positive test, I was like, I don't have time to be stressed right now. Like, I don't have time to be stressed. I don't have time to feel hopeless. Like, I just got to keep going. And it's so crazy because 2 days before I found out that I was pregnant, I had a book signing for the second edition of Jefa training here in Portland. And like, I didn't prepare anything. I usually just kind of like, I'm a very impromptu kind of speaker, especially when it comes to my book events. And so I went on a whole tangent about how we might not see the impact of the work that we're doing, but the next generation probably will. And so as someone who was thinking about starting a family, I think about, well, I need to continue making an impact so that the next generation can have an easier time. I think maybe subconsciously I knew that I was pregnant, and I just actually like confirmed it a couple of days later. But it's been such a crazy experience, like how your perspective changes so quickly, or is forced to change so quickly once you find something like that out and you're living through it.
It is so true. And I think as entrepreneurs too, it really helps us redefine like that whole question of like, when is enough too, right? Because it's like, do you want to be so caught up in your business that you can't enjoy the rest of your life? Because then what was the point? Then we're on a fucking treadmill that we created ourselves. Like, there's nobody else that you can blame at that point. It's nobody. You're the boss. You are the agent of chaos. And it's up to you to like figure out how to fit this into your life and not make it be your entire life. And I think for me, motherhood has been that like wake up call that I needed, that I'm just so much better at saying no to shit that is not worth my time, because now it really has real consequences. Like, I'm going to be away from my daughter for this bullshit. Okay. No, thank you. Like, the check's not big enough. The stress is not worth it.
And it's so easy to fall back into like old habits or patterns or like ways of thinking, because I even workshopping through this memoir concept and writing it all, like, this whole experience has reminded me to be present and redefine success, blah, blah, blah. I started spiraling the other day because I was like, all right, so my maternity leave is probably going to start here, and then I probably won't come back to work till here. And then what am I going to do after that? I have no idea. And I was sharing this with a mentor because I had already kind of been feeling like, well, I've already done, everyone says to me, like, you're only 33 and you've already done like this and this and this. What's next? I have no idea what to tell them. I'm just doing it. Like, I thought I was going to have to do IVF this year. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm still figuring it out. But I started kind of spiraling about not knowing. And I shared that with a mentor over the weekend. Shout out to Beatriz Acevedo. Thank you for listening to my rants. But love Bea. She straight up said, you are thinking too much right now for someone who's pregnant and about to have, like, enjoy this time because it goes by so fast. Like, make space for opportunities to come to you now, because you never know. Like, the signs are always there. Like, from now to the time that you have this baby, like, something will probably come up where you're going to be like, oh, that is the next direction, like that is the next move. And I was like, you know what? You're so right. You're so right. I was there.
It's true. And we can make all the plans in the world, but you really don't know how this experience is going to change your life until it's like you're in it. And then you're like, okay, now we got to figure out how to make this shit work. And I'm glad you mentioned like how your new foray into this incredible journey of motherhood has you thinking differently. And for me, one of the things that came out of it was exactly what you were talking about. For me, I was like, why aren't we telling more stories about that idea of like being able to have an identity outside of motherhood, and it was in talking to so many women entrepreneurs who are Latinas and who are also mothers, and then seeing like that contrast with so much of the toxic narratives that exist around motherhood on social media, and just like this idea of being drained and giving up your dreams, and like your kids suck the life out of you and there's no way you can flourish and like be out here killing it in motherhood and business. I was like, that shit that we need a space to have these conversations because I know women who are fucking killing it. And so that was the inspiration for the latest series on the podcast, Jefas y Mamás. We're literally talking to people who are doing both because it's possible, right? And like you said, it is not until you see yourself represented, whether you're a single mom or a first time mom, or you want to have 17 fucking kids, but you want to run a business too. You have to see that these things can happen for you to actually be able to create it for yourself. There's a shift, right? That happens in the brain.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now you know my secret.
I'm so excited. I know like people are going to lose their shit when they hear this because I know I've been following your journey. You've been very open and vulnerable about your journey to become a mom. And so I'm so happy to hear that for you. And I know that your child is going to be steeped in the culture of entrepreneurship, which I'm sure is like, you know, they're going to learn so many lessons, right? And I think that's another beautiful thing about it too. It's like we get to show the next generation that it's not just about the 9 to 5 grind. You know, you don't necessarily need to follow this prescriptive fucking checklist on life to be very successful and to just, it's okay. Like not everybody's meant for college. Not everybody's meant for 9 to 5. Like some people just aren't operated or they're not wired to operate that way. And there's nothing wrong with you. Okay. I think if anything, I want us as like first gen entrepreneurs to let the next generation know the only limitation you really have is the ones that you put on yourself, y'all. Okay. Not society, not like what people's opinions. You have the power to create whatever the hell it is that you want to do. And we are living examples of that. Hopefully that can be seen as like, oh shit, she did it. I can do it too.
I had a very validating experience a couple of weeks ago. My mom was here, and when the book came out and I started doing all this traveling for work and stuff, my mom said to me one day, you know, when you decide to start a family, like, you're going to have to give all that up. She was very much like, you're going to have to stop this. So fast forward to a few years from that point, I already hired my mom to work for my business. Like, you know, I hired her to help me run my retreats and she killed it. And we, you know, that changed our relationship a lot for the better, and also helped her kind of like get back into the swing of like working and doing what she's good at after so long of not having that opportunity, which was awesome to see her in like her element. But she was here and she met, I have a co-host from some of the events that I've been hosting here in Portland. Her name is Viridiana Ponce. She'd be great for your Jefa Mami's segment, by the way. But she's actually another business consultant, and she works primarily in finance for food businesses, food and bev businesses. But she has a little 1-year-old, Sophia, who's so cute. And she brings that girl everywhere with her, to meetings, to networking events, to this, to that. And I was telling my mom, and then she met Bidi, and she was like, I'm so impressed with how dedicated you are to your daughter and how dedicated you are to your business. And then she looked at me and she was like, I couldn't do both, but I think you can. And the way that I wanted to just like start sobbing in the middle of that restaurant and hearing that was just like, I was like, man, I think I really, really, really needed to hear that. Because at the end of the day, like, I knew that, but like to hear my mom say it after she had told me so many times, like, you're going to need to give that up. Life is going to be different. But like, of course, I know life is going to be different. Like, of course. But like hearing that from her was just, it was so great.
That's amazing. I'm so excited for you. And before we close this out, we obviously have to talk about the second edition of your book, Jefa in Training. Tell us what spurred this second edition and what folks can hope to get out of this book. If they are thinking about entrepreneurship, is it good for folks who already have a business? Like, tell us all the things.
Yeah, to be very transparent, the second edition was a move made on the publisher's side because the cost of printing was getting very expensive, and the first edition of the book was in color, and they ran out of copies of Jefa, which is amazing news, right? Because all authors want to hear that there are no more books. And so they brought me a choice of, we can keep the edition the way it is and keep it print on demand, which is, if you know, like a nightmare for anyone who does a lot of events because it takes a long time to get your books. So like that wouldn't have worked for me. Or increase the price. Like they wanted to increase the price like $3 or $4. And the book was already kind of expensive for what it was, like a workbook, paperback. So a lot of retailers were hesitant to order it because like I'm not a huge celebrity. You know, I have a lot of thought leadership and notoriety like in our little Latina space, but outside of that, you know, it's not like I'm Michelle Obama. So no one's going to take a bet and buy 100 copies of my book right off the bat. And so I was just like, well, if I can do a second edition, make some updates. So there's a new foreword by Beatriz Acevedo, actually, and it's amazing. She gives some really awesome insights and advice and kind of really sets the book up for like an inspiring note. And then I wrote a whole new intro with new insights, everything that I've learned since the book came out. The book is now in black and white, which I was hesitant about, but I had to look at it from the perspective of I'm making the book more accessible for our community and for more retailers to carry it. And I would prefer that versus get like hung up on my ego and the book looking pretty in color and raising the price so that no one will buy it anyway because it's too expensive. Like I had to make that choice of like what's going to get, because at this point, I make $1.45 per copy sold of my book. So I'm not doing it to get rich off of book sales, y'all. Like I'm not doing it for that. At this point, my dream is for someone to just like buy a bunch of copies so I can give books away for free like Oprah. Like you get a book, you get a book, you get a book. Like that is, in case anyone listening wants to do that, I'm so down. But I just really want the people who need the book to have it. And this seemed like the best choice for that. So outside of like the updated insights in the beginning, it is the same book. I hope one day that there will be like a part 2, like an extended workbook, whatever. There also, I wrote this book 6 years ago already. So there is so much that I have learned already since then. And, you know, that I would maybe want to do like an extended workbook update with more case studies or examples or whatever. But until then, I do think it's a great resource for aspiring entrepreneurs, but also a lot of people with businesses have told me that because it's written as like a toolkit, you don't really have to read the whole thing. So like if you're having trouble with sales, you can just open up to the sales chapter, do the exercise, put it away, right? Or people revisit it from time to time because it does have a bunch of tools that you can just go and look at whenever and fill out the exercises whenever you feel like you need that additional boost or you're feeling stuck. So I wrote it very intentionally in that way where people don't have to read the whole thing. They can pick it up if they want to look at it again in like a couple of months, quarterly, whatever, want to do their practice. And now that it's been out for a while, people have told me that they've been using it like that. And it's just like the best feeling that people will keep it. And like when people come to book signings, they like apologize for having written all over the book and highlighted and post-its and this. And I'm like, no, like I see that and it makes me so happy to see that because that's what it's for. And so, yeah, I'm very excited for the opportunity for more people to have it. First trimester of pregnancy honestly really killed me. So I dropped the ball on promoting. I will be very honest. I dropped the ball a lot on promoting the second edition because I found out a week after that came out.
Girl, listen, as somebody who literally started the book tour 2 weeks pregnant and did my entire book tour being in the first trimester, where I would literally hop on a plane, check into the hotel, face plant on the bed until about an hour before my book signing, fucking somehow get dressed and put makeup on, show up, interact with people, and then come back and literally just knock out. I know exactly what you're going through. I have so much sympathy, and my best advice is stay hydrated and do not overcommit on any kind of social activities because chances are you're going to have no fucking energy for any of that shit.
I feel good because actually, you know, I'm like entering second trimester this week or whatever. And so,
oh, thank goodness.
I think I'm like knocking on wood right now so I don't shoot myself in the foot, but like I'm like, I think the hump is over and I am now slowly coming back to life as of the date of this recording.
Yes. Take the next 3 months to do as much as you can because it goes right back to the same shit in third trimester.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I am open to opportunities from now until mid-June. After that, I will just be nesting, looking cute in a crop top with my bump. And that's the plan for the rest of the year.
I love it. I love it. And the beauty of it is that as entrepreneurs, we really can curate even the pregnancy experience to our lives. Like we don't have to be worried about, am I going to get fired from work because I'm pregnant? Or am I going to have enough paid time off to like actually enjoy being a new parent? And I think one of the really light bulb moments for me as to why I pursued entrepreneurship, I didn't know it at the time, but it is now this opportunity that I get to experience motherhood in a way that I'm not feeling the constraints that so many people feel in the corporate space, in the 9-to-5 world. We get to really define and create environments that allow us to thrive in all areas of our lives. And I think that's why we do this at the end of the day. Yeah, the money's nice, but the freedom is better.
Yeah, agreed.
Ashley, thank you so much for being here. It has been an honor. I've learned so much about you in this interview, and I know people are going to want to find out more and more about you, about the book, and follow your journey. So tell us where we can find you.
Yes, on all my socials, it's just my name, Ashley K. Stoyanov Ojeda, or if you Google Jefa training, I'm also very easily found. A quick other announcement before we hop off. There is a lot more to me than Jefa training, and I've been really brainstorming how to do that without having like a whole other book come out, because we know publishing timelines are crazy. And actually, by the time that this episode comes out, I have a feeling that the first episode of my podcast will also be out.
Hey.
So actually start recording later today. I'm
Wow.
releasing a podcast with a new local media company called Todos Media, which is a Latino founded media company here in Portland. And the name of the podcast will be Auténtica, and it's all about showcasing the journeys and stories of underrepresented change makers who are redefining success in their own way in industries. And I'm really, really excited. So that will be coming up soon.
That is so exciting. And I love how this whole journey for you has come like very full circle, because now you're back kind of out here in the media world where you first started in college, right? Where you're creating a new media platform now and getting to do the thing that you are so brilliant at doing, which is the storytelling, you know, in a different medium. So super exciting. Definitely going to be checking that out. And you guys will be able to tune into that show wherever you're listening to this one. I'm so excited to continue to follow your journey and to see this new side of you as mama. So it's Mama in Training now. I think that's the next book.
I really think so. I really think so. Yeah, I'm excited too. And like I was talking about earlier, I don't really know what to expect. And I think a lot of new moms have told me, oh, you're going to go through this identity crisis, no sé qué, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm seeing it more of a shift, not a crisis, but a shift. And honestly, one that I've been excited for a long time. I waited a while to get to this point, and I'm really excited to be here. So.
Hell yeah. Welcome to the club, girlfriend, as they say. Thank you so much for being here. And y'all make sure to pick up your copy of Jefa in Training wherever you buy books. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you.